Good morning, everyone. This is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? I'm feeling a little grim this morning because of everything that's been going on. But we got out of our 14 days of quarantine. I got to see my grandson yesterday, which was really, really nice. And they're starting to have a mass again at my church, but I have a dispensation because I'm 60 and up, and I'm also nervous about going because of all the gatherings, all the protests where people aren't social distancing. And in our area, it was just, we opened up 2 weeks after the rest of Virginia because our area had been the hardest hit. And so we were just opening up, and the numbers were just starting to look good. And then people just threw social distancing out the window. And so I'm nervous that it's going to spike again. So I don't know. I think I'm going to keep myself in quarantine for the next couple of weeks and just look at the numbers, see what happens. So it's been very, I live in a very political area. My family is very political. My oldest is very radicalized, or not very, but is pretty radicalized. So there's a lot of interesting discussions here. So anyway, I'm praying about it. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I am sympathetic to the issue. In fact, way back when I did my review on that baby boomer book, Blaming the Baby Boomers, I talked about how I was interested in the reform of our judicial system and our penal system, because it is a problem. We do need to fix things, or make things better. But at the same time, after 3 months of being told that you're going to kill grandma if you go out and don't social distance and stuff, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that particular thing. So I know a lady whose husband died and she couldn't have a funeral for him. And people died alone in their hospitals. The family couldn't come in. We were trying so hard to keep the numbers down, and now, I just saw a picture last night in Philadelphia. A huge gathering, thousands and thousands, which is, in any other time that would be good, that there was this big groundswell to really change a broken system. But I'm just, I don't know. So anyway, I pray that everything goes well, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna try and do my best and get involved locally to try to help with police reform. That's what I think is the direction I can go in. I can, write my legislator and educate myself on what actually goes on in my little area, and that's what I plan to do. So, and actually I have been doing, I've been doing research and stuff. So that's my tiny little drop of contribution to the whole calamity. So I was going to do a review of Purgatory. So Purgatory was my classic spin read, and I was supposed to have it read by June 1st, but I finished it on June 1st June 1st was a bad day because I came out here that day and there was like a mist. There was so much pollen. I had a horrible headache that day, and I kept trying to read, and my eyes would just start watering. I just couldn't read. So it took me all day to finish the last, was it 6 or 7 cantos? It was a real struggle, but I did finally finish it, and I am glad that I read it. It was very interesting. I feel like it's like when you take a tour bus of a city and you just whiz by and you kind of look at the different landmarks, but you don't actually, you're a tiny bit more familiar with the city, but you don't really know the history of the city. That's the way I feel about this. It was just a drive-by, glancing, sightseeing of all the stuff, all the depth that's in this book. And of course, this is only the middle third of the whole trilogy, which is the Inferno, and then after Purgatory, there's the Paradise. And I had read the Inferno about 10 years ago, and I remember a little bit, but not too much. So I actually mostly read this version by Anthony Esolen, or Esolen. I don't know how you say his last name. Esolen. I really liked, I don't know why I have this stuck in here. I really liked the setup of this book, because he would put the Italian on this side, the actual Italian, and then he would put his translation here. And I've studied Latin, not that much, but a little bit, and I studied Italian a long time ago. And so I could sort of pick out words, and I could see how he was translating and sort of turning things around. And so that was, I got a tiny glimpse of that, and nothing at any approaching a expert level at all, but that was a little bit fun. I kind of enjoyed that. His writing is very simple. Oh, I know, I was going to compare this way. I was going to compare his translations, and for some reason I just randomly picked out Canto 18. So if you don't know the story, let me summarize real quick, and then I'll do that. There's 33 cantos, and it's a continuation of Dante, who wrote it, but he's the main character, his journey through the afterlife. So in the Inferno, he falls asleep in this dark wood, and Virgil comes to meet him, and Virgil, who wrote the Aeneid, was Dante's great hero, and Virgil takes Dante. He's been given this gift of being able to see what goes on after we die, and he gets to journey through the Inferno, or hell, and it's moving up like a mountain, I guess. Well, it's definitely a mountain in Purgatory, but he goes through hell, and then he's gotten to Purgatory, and it's a weird combination. It's like a mashup. He takes all the stuff that Dante learned, in his classics studies, so Ovid and Virgil and all the ancients, because this is written during the Renaissance, when there's a real rebirth of interest in all those ancient classics. I'm actually getting warm. Let me take this off. And so he. So there's lots of figures from antiquity show up, and history too, literature and history, and then he also runs into biblical figures, and then at the same time that he's mashing those up as he journeys through, he's also really thinking about theological things, and then. Another layer of it is that he's making contemporary political commentary on what's going on at the time, and I don't know the I think I knew it at one time, but I don't know the details now, but he was banished from Florence because of this feuding that was going on, and which was a great tragedy to him. It was a real hardship. And he's also, at the same time, he's also making commentary on contemporary writers at his time, other poets. So it's just an incredible mishmash of all this different stuff. And he's also playing with the forms of the canto, like he does things like acrostics and playing with numbers, and so there's just layer upon layer upon layer of things you can think about. So there's just so much there. It's so incredibly rich that, it's the type of thing where you could spend your life studying it. And I think, and you'd be still uncovering another layer, another little clever play on something. So it is a brilliant masterpiece. And I'm just doing the middle third here. So I read Isolin's translation because it was just easy. It just flowed very simply and elegantly, and I could look at the Italian and see that he was being true to it. And then I did occasionally glance at Longfellow's translation, which is quite stiff and and kind of old-fashioned poetry. Though sometimes it seemed had more clarity to me than other. But anyway, I don't want to make this too long. It's already 10 minutes, so let me quickly go through this. I'm trying to compare. Wait, this is, I can't read my Roman numerals. Okay. Oh, it's right in the middle of this one. Okay, so this is Canto 18 here, and here's Canto 18 here, right? And he's got the Italian, and then he's got very brief notes at the beginning. Dorothy L. Sayers, I really liked her because I feel like she just had so much fun getting into this book. She wrote lots and lots of notes. Her translation can be good too. It's a little bit more high poetry, kind of more traditional poetry. But she wrote tons of notes at the end. He has notes too at the very end, but they're not as extensive. They're sometimes a little bit kind of preachy, where she's just sort of having fun and explaining it. I felt in a more objective way, with a little bit more. I don't know. She just has this kind of a sense of humor or way of presenting things that just seemed a little bit. He seems a little bit cranky. So I'm just going to read the first. This is Canto 18. Virgil shows Dante how all of our actions, both the good and the evil, are motivated by love. The poets are in the ring of sloth, or sloth, I think is how you're supposed to say it, and meet the sinners hurrying past. Among them is the abbot of San Zeno. So Dante would stick people that he knew of in different layers of hell or purgatory, sort of making comments on them. So I'll read the first couple of the stanzas. When he fell silent from his argument, the teacher, which is Virgil, of deep matters watched my eyes to ascertain if I appeared content. And I said nothing, but a new thirst then swept like a sickle through me, and I wondered, maybe he finds my questions wearisome. And then Dorothy L. Sayers, beginning 2 cantos there for Canto 18, go like this. Thus the great teacher closed his argument and earnestly perused my face to see whether I now appeared to be content, while I, though a new thirst tormented me, kept outward silence and within me said, my endless questions worry him, maybe. Okay, so these are 2 different translations. And then here is the Italian. Let's see if I can read it. Posto avea fine al sua ragionamento, l'auto dottore, that's the teacher, e attento guardava nella mia vista s'io parea contento. So content, see if he was content. E io's I, cui nova sete ancat frugava di fluor tacie, that's like to touch, or no, to be silent, e dentro dicea, and then out of my teeth I said, no, that's not right, but dentro, that's teeth. Anyway, forse, perhaps, lo troppo, that's like too much, demander ch'io folli grava. So perhaps I've demanded too much, something like that. So anyway, so he sticks in this thing like a sickle, and I don't know where that came from. Maybe it's in there. Anyway, he's trying to convey the same idea, maybe. Anyway, so I thought I would maybe take this opportunity to explain a tiny, tiny bit about the concept of purgatory, and I could go really into it. And I thought about this a lot, but I don't really want to be an apologetics kind of, I don't want to have to deal with that or too much. And so purgatory is this concept that Catholics have, Eastern Orthodox Christians have, and actually like Orthodox and like Hasidic Jews also have. And there's traces of the idea of purgatory, not this incredibly developed idea, which was just Dante was just using it as a device for this epic. Um, so it's not in the Catholic imagination took off a lot more than what the Catholic Church actually teaches about it. But since there is a reference in Maccabees and even in the New Testament to a cleansing fire and praying for the dead, and in fact Jews in their mourners Kaddish, is it Kaddish? I should have brought it. I have a copy of the one that we prayed for either my mother-in-law or my grandmother-in-law. Anyway, in the mourners, I'm not going to say it right. All of a sudden, I'm blanking on it. Kaddish. Ugh, that's crazy. I know the word and I can't say it. But anyway, we do pray for the dead. So Jews pray for the dead, Orthodox Christians pray for the dead, and Roman Catholics pray for the dead. And in the whole catechism, this is the catechism of the Catholic Church. So this is everything you want to know about what the Catholic Church believes is in here. They just put it in black and white. And there's one page on purgatory. So that's it. I mean, it moves right on to hell right after that. So it's just one page. And I'll read to you what it says. This is 1030, the final purification or purgatory. All who die in God's grace and friendship, but still imperfectly impurified, are indeed assured of their eternal salvation. But after death, they undergo purification so as to achieve the holiness necessary to enter the joy of heaven. The Church gives the name purgatory to this final purification of the elect, which is entirely different from the punishment of the damned. So when you're in purgatory, you know that you're going to be saved. You're just working out the reparation for your sin so that you can be whole and then be holy enough to go to heaven, which is, living eternally in God's presence. So there could be nothing that isn't good in God's presence. So you're saved, but you still have to work off that sort of personal responsibility that you have for the sins that you've committed. The Church formulated her doctrine of faith and purgatory, especially at the councils of Florence and Trent. The tradition of the Church, by reference to certain texts of scriptures, speaks of a cleansing fire. Where is this from? This is from the Council of Florence in 1439. As for certain lesser faults, we must believe that before the final judgment there is a purifying fire. He who is truth says that whoever utters blasphemy against the Holy Spirit will be pardoned neither in this age or in the age to come. From this sentence, we understand that certain offenses can be forgiven in this age, but certain others in the age to come. And then section 1032, this teaching is also based on the practice of prayer for the dead. That's what I was talking about, already mentioned in sacred scripture. Therefore, Judas Maccabeus made atonement for the dead, that they might be delivered from their sin. From the beginning, the Church has honored the memory of the dead and offered prayers and suffrage for them, above all the Eucharistic sacrifice, so that, thus purified, they may attain the beatific vision of God. The Church also commends almsgiving, indulgences, and works of penance undertaken on behalf of the dead. And then this is a quote from, it's really tiny, I don't know where it's coming from. First one was Council of Florence. Is this Council of Trent? Or is it another one? Anyway, it's let us help and commemorate them. If Job's sons were purified by their father's sacrifice, why would we doubt that our offerings for the dead bring them some consolation? Let us not hesitate to help those who have died and to offer our prayers for them. So that's it. So that's what this whole thing is based on, that idea that there's this place of purification before you can enter heaven. And Dante had this incredible structure, and it's already 19 minutes, so, but I really love Dorothy L. Sayers because she sets it all out in these graphics, which is really neat. And so there's this real balance and logic to the poem. And you go through these, he calls them rings, she calls them cornices. They're traveling through it. They're at the anti-purgatory, which is before they actually enter purgatory. And so it's like, she's got circle, then she's got the type of sinner, penance, the type of penance that they have to do, which corresponds with the sin. Then she has something, a meditation called, and she's a whip and a bridle. So there's something that would kind of like be something that would, what do I want to say? Make you fear the sin, and then a bridle would be the response to that sin that would help you have self-control against it. Then there's the prayer that you would use that corresponds, the guardian that would that guards that particular ring, and then the benediction. And a lot of it in Purgatory corresponds to the Beatitudes. And a lot of these prayers come from the Mass. So there's the Agnus Dei, Litany of the Saints. So it's really interesting, and there's so many that's the other thing. And not only does he refer to the Scripture, but he refers a lot to liturgy, the Catholic liturgy, as well. So it's really neat. It's got real logic to it, which I really enjoyed seeing it from this. Seeing it broken down like this, it made a lot of sense to me. So I think that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm sure there was more. I had so much in my head that I wanted to say about it. I enjoyed reading it. I'm glad. I don't think I'm going to be picking up the next one, Paradiso, just yet, which is probably to my own detriment, because if I read them all together, I'd probably get more out of it. It's really, really rich and something you could study for a long time and still get a lot of stuff out of it. So I'm very glad that Dante existed and that he wrote this masterpiece. And I think I'll end things there. So talk to you later. Take care. Bye.